You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K23. Myself, Momuti, alongside BJ Armstrong. As always, BJ, I see you. Fresh cut, looking sharp, ready to take on All-Star Weekend. Are you excited? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I am excited. I'm excited. It's a tremendous honor for these players who are all participating in All-Star Weekend, the rookies, three-point contest, the dunk contest, of course, the NBA, the game, all the partners. So it's always a great weekend, and it's a lot of fun to catch up with everyone and catch up with people I haven't seen in quite some time. So it's I always look forward to going to All-Star Weekend. And again, congratulations to all the participants this year.
Yes, sir. And I'm excited for this one because they're going to be drafting the teams, Team LeBron and Team Giannis, just before tip-off. So no one knows who they're going to be playing with. It's going to be like being in a playground. I'm excited. If you had the first pick in this year's draft, BJ, which player would you
Well, Giannis, he should be the first player.
Giannis is the captain, so he's picking
is that how it
the
works?
player. So who are you picking? If you could pick any of
the
stars,
Giannis and who?
Giannis and LeBron, they're the captains, so they're off the board.
Oh, they're the captains.
So who will be the first pick this year?
Oh gosh, I have to look at the probably Jason Tatum. Should probably be the first pick. Jason Tatum should probably be the first pick.
Great performance against your Detroit Pistons the other night.
Oh, you have to remind me. He was cooking. He was cooking.
24 points in a quarter. Crazy.
Yeah, he was cooking. Yeah, he was cooking last night. He was cooking. I couldn't call you. I
know. I was waiting for my phone to ring, but my phone did not ring.
It did not ring. I was hoping you were asleep. I
never sleep.
Yeah. So, but no, he was cooking. That's why he's an MVP candidate. I mean, he could very well be the MVP this year. He certainly played like it, and he was terrific. I mean, he really played well. But overall, who was exceptional was Marcus Smart.
Yes,
on the
sir.
defensive end. I mean, if Jason
steals?
Tatum controlled the game on the offensive game, Marcus Smart controlled the game on he controlled the entire game on the defensive end.
The defensive player of the year for a reason. First game in 25 days, and he comes out with 6 steals. But speaking of the Celtics, we have some news out of Boston. Coach Joe Mazzulla has officially been named head coach. He's been the interim head coach since training camp, but now Coach Mazzulla has been certified. Meaning the franchise is moving on from Ime Udoka, who is now free to go and work elsewhere, I assume.
Bravo.
It would be very odd if he came back as an assistant to the guy who was previously his assistant. It worries me a little bit because the assistant coaches and all the coaching staff, that's Udoka's staff. So if he gets a job elsewhere, I don't know if Boston will have an exodus of assistant coaches and that training staff to go and work with Udoka again, or if they're going to stay with Joe Mazzulla. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, all those coaches have to do what's best for them. And then I think the Celtics have to do what's best for them. And a lot of times, Mo, when you're doing that, coaching in its purest form is about the players. It's not about you. It's about those players. And you have relationships and you make a commitment as a coach to help them. So without question, those coaching and that coaching staff, they work well together, regardless who's sitting in that head seat. Damon Stoudemire and those guys, they have the respect of those players. At least it appears to be from the outside looking in. I remember when Damon had to take over for a game or two, those guys looked like they wanted to win for him, and so I think they have a great working relationship. Clearly it's working, whatever is going on over there. You never know. However, I would suspect now that everyone's kind of moved on and you move on because right now things are looking pretty good in Boston. And those guys are young enough to where you're saying, a championship is really in our sights. So I would think that that everyone in that staff, they're connected, as the young people like to say, everyone's locked in and they look like they're really focused on, achieving a goal this year because they're certainly playing like the best team in the league.
It's nice of the Celtics to give Mazzulla that boost of confidence as we enter the home straight of the regular season. What worries me is the defense doesn't look like it looked last year. However, that might be something they're just waiting to turn up a notch when it gets to the playoffs. And, Rob Williams has missed time with injury. Al Horford's obviously managing his playing time. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown have had injuries recently, and Smart, who we just talked about, has been out for a while. So we'll see how that goes. If I was in charge, I would have said to Joe Mazzulla, listen, you could be the head coach if you win a championship. We got to the finals last year. We've got the same squad, and we've added Malcolm Brogdon. So all you got to do is go win. If you want the job, it's yours. If not, we're bringing Ema back. That's what I would have done. But maybe that's just me. But shout out to the Celtics for giving him that vote of confidence. It's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. BJ, we talked yesterday about our dream finals matchup. What I want to ask you today is, looking at all the teams' performances so far, we talked about the favorites. We talked about the Bucks, the Celtics, the Suns, the Warriors even. If there was an under-the-radar team that everyone's sleeping on that could surprise everyone and make a dark horse run to the NBA Finals, which team should we be looking out for, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know if they're a dark horse team. Certainly, I was not alone in thinking that this team on paper looked pretty good, and that's the LA Clippers.
Oh,
I just think that the Clippers... No, just when I'm ready to say, with whatever's going on, load management and so forth and so on. And it's not that I don't like the Clippers, because I do. I respect the Clippers. I just want to see them play. I want to see this team reach its full potential. How cool would it be if the Clippers and the Lakers, played in the playoffs? I mean, I think that would be really cool, especially at the Crypto Center now.
Yeah, the way the Lakers played last night, I've got confidence in them to get to that.
Yeah, so I think that would be really cool. However, I watched Kawhi Leonard play the other night versus the Golden State Warriors, and you're going, that's a championship caliber team, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's like something is going to get in their way. And it seems like themselves. I want the Clippers to reach their full potential. I think under the radar, this is a team that no one really wants to play in a 7-game series. I think they will show up in the playoffs. However, I would like to see them utilize the regular season to get themselves ready to make that run in the playoffs. So if I were out there in the Western Conference, the Clippers, because they're deep. They just picked up Bones Highland.
They're deep, but they're getting deeper because breaking news as of this second, Shams Charania has said that the Clippers have begun conversations with Russell Westbrook. So adding Russ to that squad as well, he can still contribute. We saw he can bring something off the bench.
If Russell goes there, Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, they are deep. They have size, athleticism. They can score. They can defend. Strong bodies. This is a team, Mo, that you're saying they have everything. They have all of the essential qualities necessary to win and be the best team over there in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they were looking for an upgrade at their point guard position. They got Bones for an absolute steal of 2 second-round picks. They're adding Russell Westbrook. They were looking for a backup big. They got Mason Plumlee, who's actually been very good in Charlotte. And even looking at their bench, they've got Norman Powell, who would start for a lot of teams in the NBA, coming in off their bench. So I like what they're doing. But for me, the team that I think everyone's kind of forgotten about as they've slipped down the standings is the New Orleans Pelicans, because Zion has missed a lot of time now with an injury. But when he's on the court for them, they look so scary. I know they've been losing games without him, and Brandon Ingram missed a lot of time as well. But I think everyone's at the start of the season, there was a little bit of hype, when they were winning a lot of games. Everyone's like, yeah, the Pelicans. I think everyone's started to forget about them. But if Zion can get back in time for the playoffs, I think they're a team that I'd keep an eye on, because we talk about depth. We've got to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, because look at their starting 5 alone. Absolutely stacked. And then their bench as well is crazy. So what do you think about the Pelicans' chance?
Well, I'm going to sum the Pelicans up in 2 words. Zion Williamson. Mm-hmm. If Zion is not healthy, I don't know what's going on with this team. When I say as far as their championship aspirations, it's kind of becoming obvious to me how good of a player he is when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. He he's a difference maker.
He's an
He's a
all-star.
very impactful. Yeah, there's a lot of all-stars, but he's a very impactful player on both ends of the court. Even though I don't think of him as a defensive player, it's just his size and his ability and what he does rebounding. But offensively, you can really see the difference when he's playing and when he's not playing. If Zion is playing, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have gone on a 10-game losing streak. So I want to see him healthy. Now, it's reports that I guess he re-injured or re-aggravated his hamstring here, and I guess in part of his rehab in a 3-on-3 or something. So hopefully he gets back on the court, because now, the season's, starting to, we got about 20 games or so now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need him if they're going to, really make a run in the playoffs, and they're going to need him to play at a high level. And it's very unfortunate that he is injured. However, you could see the impact that he has on winning, and they need him if they're going to really try to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Another team that I want to talk about today, I saw a great headline. It was a New York newspaper, and they said orange is the new black after the trade deadline. Obviously referencing the orange of the Knicks and the black of the Nets, saying that the Knicks are back to being the best team in New York City. Now, shout out to Mikal Bridges. He put up 45, and the Brooklyn Nets are very fun. The thing I think about the Brooklyn Nets, right, is I love the team that they got right now. So many versatile defenders, so many great pieces. They just need one superstar that could put them over the top. And the perfect superstar, ironically, would actually be Kevin Durant. But the Knicks are going into the All-Star break 6 games over 500. Jalen Brunson has been amazing for them so far. And adding Josh Hart, I think, has been fantastic. He obviously has that chemistry with Jalen Brunson from their college days. What do you think about the Knicks? Do you think they have the chance to cause an upset in the first round of the playoffs?
I think they have. Well, it's all about the matchups. I'll give the Knicks this. They're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. They beat the Utah Jazz. They beat last night the Atlanta Hawks. They're beating the teams they are supposed to beat. They beat the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, think about that. Brooklyn probably hasn't practiced not one time since all of these trades go on. Okay. So, every game poses its different, problems and things you have to overcome. Well, you would hope that you could beat a team, or you would think that you should beat a team that hasn't been together literally 3 or 4 days.
Okay? Yeah.
I mean, they have a limited, offensive schemes they can do. They have limited defensive schemes. They haven't played with one another. They haven't practiced. They're just literally playing probably one play, high screen roll, and let's try to get some stops and see what happens. So give the Knicks credit. I thought that was a good pickup for them with Josh Hart. I thought that was a good pickup. And why do I say that's a good pickup? Because he fits what they're trying to do. They like to defend. They like to play a physical brand of basketball. And I think he fits in that scheme of what they're trying to do up there. Now, what does that mean when they start playing the Celtics? What does that mean when they start playing, I think the Knicks, if I remember correctly, I think they beat the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks beat the Sixers at home, and then they lost to them up there. I think that's how it worked. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like, when they play the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll see, because, right now, as is, okay, they are sitting currently, 6? So they'll end up playing they'll probably play Philly, Milwaukee, or Boston in the first round. Okay. And we'll see. Well, we'll see how that plays out. I don't know if they're better than those teams, but the way they are playing, certainly now you have to ask the question. And as well as Jalen Brunson is playing and Julius Randle, who's an all-star this year, you can argue that Jalen Brunson should be an all-star this year. I don't know if any of those players are better than those top 3 players. Talking about Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, or Giannis. So I think it's going to be tough. Now, if they can get up to the 4th seed or the 5th seed, which it's possible. Brooklyn, I think, sits probably in the 5th seed right now. I think Cleveland That'd be an interesting matchup. Cleveland and the Knicks in the first round would be an interesting matchup at 4-5. I think that would be an interesting matchup. Cleveland is big. They have terrific guard play. I would love to see Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. I think that would be a terrific matchup. Mobley and Jared Allen and then Julius Randle and those guys. So, there's a lot of of movement here. However, I'm not sure if they are better than any of those teams.
Yeah.
What I mean? I think it would be good, but I like what the Knicks are doing. I really do.
I hear it. Now, we're going to have a little break from the episodes coming up because BJ is obviously going to All-Star Weekend. So before you go on your little trip to Salt Lake City, which I'm sure is a thrilling destination to be at.
Why is it little, Mo? You just make it so unexciting.
Because it's a quick trip. Because you're not going for a month to All-Star. You're not going to spend a month in Utah, are you? It's a weekend. A weekend is a little trip.
I'm going to campaign for you for next year at the Celebrity Game. This is the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going on this. I'm campaigning for Mo to get into the Celebrity Game.
Okay. But what I wanted to ask you about was you actually made an appearance at All-Star Weekend as an NBA All-Star in the year I was born, 1994. Now, PJ, what has changed in your perspective between 1994 and now? Oh my God, almost 30 years later. Oh my God, I'm almost 30. I just had a horrible realization.
I mean,
live on the show.
It's funny watching, everyone says things change. Okay, what's changed? The game?
Well, this is what I'm asking you. Do you think it's all the same, or do you think that things are different?
I think it's all the same. I don't think anything's changed. I mean, we want to say it's changed. We want to say it's changed for the better, but okay, the game is still that's the centerpiece for All-Star Weekend. You still have all of the activities, 3-point shooting, dunk contest, skills contest, check. All right, you still have the Celebrity Game and all that stuff, check. You have all of the partners and all of the businesses and the NBA and the participation with the fans and all of the things where people can interact, check. I mean, I don't know what's changed. Now, what has changed? Okay. All right. There was no Instagram back then. Okay. There was no Twitter back then.
Well, we'll take us behind the curtain because, do players really, because the assumption from some fans is players will go to All-Star Weekend and they'll try and recruit other players to come and join their team as free agents and whatnot. Is that really what goes on behind the scenes?
Here is what has changed. Here's what has changed in the league. Free agency, right around when this is when I first, it was always there, but now it kind of changed. I think I can't remember what year it was. I think Kevin Garnett had signed up there in Minnesota. He signed an extension somewhere around. I can't remember when. All these years run together.
99.
He signed an extension with Minnesota. And it was for I think it was one of, if not the first player that signed for over $100 million. Okay.
Yeah.
And he signed. Now, the reason that was big was because suddenly now it made you ask the question, wow, okay, the money is big. So players began to say, well, what's the difference between 100 million and 125? If it was 125, 126 million and 90 million.
It was a 6-year contract worth $126 million.
Yeah. So then players start saying, wow, well, 100 million
and that contributed towards the lockout in 1999.
Yeah, it was a shift in the way the players thought about the building, the roster construction. To our listeners who listen, I say that word a lot because, Mo, it's really important to understand. It's almost impossible to win constructing the teams in the way that they currently have to do them today, right? So, what happened in Toronto was an anomaly.
Yeah.
It was just okay, we got Kawhi for 1 year, we win a championship, and we move on. Normally, Mo, you have to construct a team, and you're gonna allow these guys to play 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years together to say if we can make a run to get one.
Yeah.
Now guys are just moving around. And I remember when that happened with Kevin Garnett. I don't want to get off that topic. That there was a shift because of the amount of money. So then suddenly there was no more, like, I'm not saying it was loyalty, but it shifted from, you knew the players on the team to now you just started rooting for your favorite player, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it used to be you would root for your favorite team, but then it shifted to you just rooting for your favorite player because the guys now were like, they were just moving around because
there's so much turnover on the roster that,
Yeah. Like right now, right now in the NBA, this trade deadline, this is the most activity we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. And it's like, this is just normal stuff now. These are like different teams.
Mm-hmm.
These are many of the teams you're watching now. I got to like get my phone out to see who's who. Oh, I forgot he got traded. Like,
the league looks so different even after the trade deadline.
Okay. So when that happened with that Kevin Durant, it gave a shift. Kevin Garnett, sorry. It gave a shift in the players. And once I saw the shift, I said, oh, now the players are comfortable saying, well, okay, all right. It's not like a difference between 15 million and 4 million. You're saying 126 million and this team will pay me 98 million and I can go play with my boy or my friends. And, it's like, all right, I'm down with that. And that's the shift. Now, I think that shift is here. It's not going anywhere. Guys are just looking at it from a standpoint of going, you know what? If they don't give me what I want, I'll just go somewhere else and try to and try to do it. Okay, I don't make as much money. Now, you'll see some players who will stay, and that's why, you're looking at Damian Lillard, for instance. You're looking at Giannis, for instance. But on the other hand, most of the players are like, all right, I can't get a 5-year deal. I'll just take a 4-year deal, 3 years and with the player option. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just move on to the next. So I think that is what's happened. It's just a shift in the way things are gone. I think it's a shift in the way people do business. I think it's been a shift in trying to figure out how to construct these teams. And I think the most important thing is I think the players, along with everyone's trying to hold everyone accountable for whatever that means. But the real trick is the only thing that seems to matter is winning a championship. No one talks about the process. Everyone just wants to know who's going to win it. Like at the beginning of the season, who's going to win the championship? We haven't even watched the game. And to me, that is the most difficult thing that I see, is that these players have been placed under such a microscope of just having to win, and no one wants to go through the process because, Mo, it is so difficult to win.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to win. And that's the one thing to me that made it fun, is like, I'm fortunate that I understand the process, because I didn't have to answer that question on day one. I had to answer that question, hey, do you think you guys can have a chance? Because it's hard. It's hard to win in this league, let alone win a championship. Are you kidding me? Like Kevin Durant, who's not even playing right now because of injury. We're already talking about they could be the champions next year. He's not even playing. He hasn't played in like a month. Now, we're not saying if he was healthy and da-da-da. I get what people are saying. However, Mo, how do you go from not playing to suddenly when you come back, oh, that team to beat in the West?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's just now it's all out of order. And the reason it's out of order, Mo, and this is why I believe it's out of order. Giannis, I think, is the most dominant player in today's game, or most impactful player. However, I think no one in the league, I think there are other players in the league who still think, yeah, we can win, right? Kevin, if you ask Kevin Durant, I think he would think he's the most impactful player.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jokic thinks that. I think Joel Embiid thinks that. I think Jason Tatum thinks that. I think Luka Doncic thinks that. Okay?
Yeah.
The league will get back into like what we would resemble once there is a player who stops all of the comparing, right? Because when you have a great player, there isn't a comparison. You don't start comparing like who's the best player. Now you got only way you can beat that player is you got to have the best team.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's what I think is going on in the league. So yes, my opinion is just like everyone else's opinion. You know, you can say a lot of guys, and I can't. You know, I could see Kevin Durant being the best player, Jason Tatum. I could see that. I could see Jokic. I could see Embiid. I just happen to think it's Giannis, but it's not to disrespect any of those other guys. Right now, there isn't a consensus from within, not from outside. The outside noise doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what I think because I and the rest of the people who are talking, we're not playing. But I really know this to be true. There isn't a consensus in the league who thinks who's the best player. And once there is a player who really
transcends,
evolves,
transcends.
Not transcend. Well, a player who evolves into be the best player. Where let's say 70% of the players will be like, okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
The only way you can beat that one is you got to have a better team than him. Okay,
yeah.
So and what I mean by that, at one point, Larry Bird was the best player.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to have a good team to beat him. Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, those guys, Shaq, Kobe. Kobe was at one point, he was the most dominant player in that era, in that little time frame. And you had to have a team to beat him. You had to do the same with Shaq. You had to do, at one point, LeBron, he was the best player. You had to have a team to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Duncan, for instance, that's what made Tim Duncan to me so fascinating, is because he was the best player as the best individual player in the league, and he was the best player on the team. So once that does happen, Mo, and one of these players evolves into that best player, then you're going to see a better brand of team basketball, because that's the only way you're going to be able to beat that player that everyone knows it, but doesn't really say it. That's why I always like to go to the All-Star weekend, because I always like to find out at the All-Star break who thinks he's the best player and shows it in front of the other players. I always look for that at All-Star weekend. To me, that says a lot to me who's going to win the NBA championship. Like last year, if you remember, when I walked away from the All-Star game, I said, oh, Steph Curry thinks he's the best player.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Steph Curry thought he was the best player last year, and he showed it at All-Star weekend. Like the great players who play, they use All-Star weekend to show the other players, I'm the best. Remember the year Kawhi Leonard went to All-Star weekend? It was in Chicago.
MVP.
I'll never forget it. And won MVP.
I was there. I was in the building.
I see. Those are the things I'm always like, I want to see who thinks. Like, I would be shocked this year if Giannis doesn't come out and set a tone this year. Why? It's because he knows that he's going to see Jason Tatum, and he's going to see Kawhi Leonard, possibly. He's going to see Joel Embiid. He's going to see all these guys, and he's going to want to set the tone to let everybody know, if you do see me, I'm the best player on the court.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. And that, to me, is what All-Star Weekend is truly all about. Not all of the stuff, because some of these guys know why they're there. Or the other guys are there to have fun and do the other things. Trust me, when I was in that, we made sure to come and play. Scottie Pippen, for instance, when he went there, I think it was in Minnesota. It was that year you're talking about that I made the All-Star team. We wanted to make sure that, you know what, that they know that, hey, Scotty is the best player in the league.
And he won MVP of the game.
And he won MVP of the game. Okay. We didn't win the championship that year, but some of us understand that. That's the difference between a championship or a guy who's like, oh, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
And you learn that, you know. They talk about the dream team in 92. Okay, yeah, some of the players were at a stage in their career where they couldn't be the best player anymore, right? You know, those guys were at that stage of their career. But the guys who were in the thick of their career, they had an opportunity to make sure that they let everybody know there isn't any doubt who was the best player on the 92 team. And there isn't any doubt of why he went on to win more championships, because everyone in the league, it was a consensus. Mm-hmm. You understand?
Yeah.
Well, these championships they're not by coincidence. I think Jason Tatum this year, I would really love to see him now. He's the best player in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see him be the best player now when all of the stars are there, to let everyone know, yeah, I'm not only an all-star, I'm the best of the all-stars. Because that's what the great players all do.
Mm-hmm. I hear it, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's see who puts on a show and who establishes dominance in the All-Star game. BJ, I hope you have safe travels and a great time over there. I'm looking forward to having you return and telling me everything you see and everything that you hear from that weekend. You guys enjoy it. If you're in London, I'm hosting an event with Foot Locker on Sunday. Feel free to pull up. It's sponsored by NBA 2K, so we're gonna have a little session and see who's really got some skills. We're gonna see who's really got some skills on the sticks. So
Mo in the celebrity game. Celebrity game.
Next
so if you
year.
see a guy walking around with "Where's Mo?" That's me.
BJ, you want to know something encouraging? I've lost 10 pounds so far this month. I'm down 10 pounds. You know what I'm saying? I keep that up, I'm gonna be dunking in the damn game.
And on that note,
that's not a promise, though. That's not a promise. That's dependent on my ACL coming back to life. Okay. But on that note, I hope you guys have a great All-Star weekend. Stay tuned, because I will be dropping the episode with Zach LaVine. So make sure you stay locked in and subscribe so that you don't miss that. Turn the notifications on so you're notified when that episode drops. But most importantly, until next time, get buckets.